In 2011, the Liberal Party of Canada was utterly devastated. For the first time in history, the party had entered an election and lost, not just first place, but second place as well. The Liberals had long considered themselves the natural ruling party of Canada, and for good reason. Of the country's 150-year lifespan, they had led the government for 86. 4 of Canada's top 5 longest-serving prime ministers have been Liberals, and since World War I, 9 out of the last 12 prime ministers to win in a general election have also been Liberals. They were, and still are, the only party to ever win back-to-back elections with different leaders. But by the end of the 41st Parliament, elected in 2011, the Liberals had been out of power for over 9.5 years, the longest stretch of time since John A. Macdonald. To many, this looked like a new era in Canadian politics. Stephen Harper was set to become the longest-serving Conservative Prime Minister in over a century. The NDP had just become the official opposition for the first time. Their victory promised an end to the 2.5-party system that had dominated the country for its entire existence, or at the very least, an end to the Liberals' hegemony over that system. To many, this looked like the end of the Liberals. But then, only 4 years later, the Liberals not only win a sizable majority in the Commons, but they would also cut the NDP back to half their size, retaking their historical stronghold of Quebec in the process, the first time since the 1980s. The Liberals, too, were on the rise. And that rebound is largely thanks to one man, Justin Trudeau, who, like his father before him, led the Liberals to a massive and surprising victory, primarily on the basis of charisma, confidence, and a promise to do government differently. But this time around, they are the government, and can hardly make those same promises. Trudeau has led quite a successful parliament, and he's been able to achieve many of their goals. But they've also broken promises along the way, and the last 4 years certainly haven't been without their scandals. What are the chances that they can actually repeat this victory, now that they're not actually the underdogs? Let's take a step back. Justin Trudeau was born in 1971, nearly 4 years into his father's 15.5-year reign. Pierre Trudeau, with the exception of a 9-month gap between 1979 and 1980, would be Prime Minister until Justin was nearly 13 years old. He would spend his early childhood living at 24 Sussex. In 1984, after Pierre's final parliament, Justin moved with his father back to Montreal, where he would attend the prestigious private Collège Jean de Brébeuf before earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in Literature from McGill. He then moved to the West Coast to earn his Bachelor's of Education from the University of British Columbia, and then taught at private and public schools in Vancouver. It's a common trope, you could probably even call it a slur at this point, that Trudeau's only real working experience is as a drama teacher, and that's just not true. For one, he served in Parliament for several years, but even as a teacher, he mainly taught math and French, not drama. He also started an engineering program and an environmental geography program when he returned to Montreal, but never finished. At this point, in the early 2000s, Trudeau was transitioning into a media career. He started appearing on English and French radio shows and served as the MC for galas and conventions and things like that. If we're being honest, his only real qualification for these roles, at first anyway, was his family name. But regardless of how he got there, it eventually did become real, tangible experience, and he was able to leverage that experience, and his name, to do some actually meaningful charity and political work. He even helped campaign during the 2006 Liberal leadership race, and served as the chair of the party's Youth Issues Task Force. By 2007, he had won the nomination for a federal riding in Montreal. Back in 2006, the Liberals, who had held the riding since 1953, had lost it to the Bloc. But by 2008, Justin Trudeau had retaken it. And in 2011, he was one of only 34 Liberals to win a seat. For obvious reasons, Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff quickly resigned, and 1 year later, Trudeau launched his leadership campaign. At this point, he was kind of divisive within his own party. On the one hand, he had only been an MP for 4 years, and his only experience had been as critic to youth, citizenship, and immigration, as well as his widely publicized charity boxing match with Conservative Senator John Travolta. But on the other hand, it's undeniable that Trudeau has this unmatchable aura about him. He was the son of the Prime Minister who gave us our Constitution. He was charismatic, the media loved him, and he talked about big ideas at the level of values and morality, rather than the boring level of substantive detail. He was Canada's first true social media leader. And in the end, this second opinion won out, and he won the leadership election handily on the first ballot with 79% of the vote. For reference, the last Liberal leader to win a contested leadership race was Stéphane Dion, and it took him 4 rounds of voting to win a majority of just 55%. Current Conservative leader Andrew Scheer won just 51% after 13 rounds. The Liberals were all in on Trudeau. And luckily, the media hype didn't die with the leadership race. Justin Trudeau was able to ride it and even grow it all the way up to the election. And it certainly didn't hurt that Trudeau was pretty much the exact opposite of Stephen Harper. Where in the past, Harper had portrayed himself as an intelligent, if a little uncharismatic leader who would fight strongly on the merits of his policies. This time around, he took on a more condescending tone. Harper tried to portray himself as the only one good enough to hold the office. This is where lines like,
"He's just not ready,"
came in. But this tact forced him to hold a negative tone for most of the election, which stood in stark contrast to the surprisingly youthful energy of 41-year-old Trudeau, who spoke with an optimistic but aggressively determined tone. He was even assisted in this, unknowingly, by Thomas Mulcair, whose relentless and perhaps justified attacks on Harper also forced his party to take a negative tone. Further, this allowed Trudeau to keep his hands a little cleaner and focus on his own policies, because Mulcair was doing all the dirty work of criticizing the Conservatives for him. Moreover, Mulcair was running to the right of where the NDPs usually stand. In contrast, Trudeau was portraying himself as the leader of a new era of fresh, ambitious, progressive politics. And as a result, Trudeau was able to produce the best Liberal showing since the 2000 election, with 39.5% of the popular vote and a 14-seat majority. He then went on to lead a pretty successful parliament, accomplishing most of his campaign promises, but also reneging on quite a few as well. Overall, these last 4 years can probably be best described as 2 steps forward, 1 step back, with a whole lot of compromising along the way. Let's go through a few examples. Hey, so you'll actually have to wait until part 2 to learn about Trudeau's last 4 years once he's actually been in government. That video's about 20 minutes long, so I decided to split these 2 in half, but they're both live right now, so if you'd like to check that out, it'll be linked here somewhere. And as the election gets nearer and nearer, I'll also be making videos about all the leaders in a similar format to this one, and those will be linked in a playlist that's also somewhere in here. And then as we get even closer to the election, I'll hopefully have a platform video ready that'll compare all the major policy goals of each of the parties. If you'd like to check that out, that'll also be in the playlist. Thanks for watching.